He was a man who could make a stadium roar and a headline scream, a football genius with a heart of gold and a wild streak that nearly destroyed him. He lifted trophies, captained England and became one of Liverpool's greatest leaders. But behind that fearless smile was a man fighting his own demons, battling chaos that no trophy could ever fix. This is the rise and fall of Emlyn Hughes, the crazy horse of Liverpool, the beginning, a boy with fire in his veins. Emlyn Hughes was born on August 28, 1947, in the rugged industrial town of Barrow-in-Furness in northwest England. His father, Fred Hughes, was a professional rugby league player, tough, uncompromising and fiercely competitive. From him, Emlyn inherited his unbreakable will and raw physical courage. Growing up in a working-class family, life wasn't easy, but football was Emlyn's escape, the place where his loud laugh, endless energy and fighting spirit truly belonged. Even in school matches, he was different. While others waited for the ball, Emlyn chased it from one end of the field to the other. He didn't just play the game, he attacked it. At just 17, his dream became reality when Blackpool offered him a professional contract in 1964. It was the start of something special. He might have been a small-town lad, but on the pitch he looked born for the spotlight. His speed, stamina and fierce tackling caught attention everywhere he played. Liverpool calls, the rise of Crazy Horse. In 1967, destiny knocked on his door. Liverpool's legendary manager, Bill Shankly, always on the hunt for passionate players, saw something wild and magnetic in Hughes. He immediately signed him for £65,000, a huge sum at the time. When Emlyn made his Liverpool debut against Stoke City, fans saw a player unlike any other. He charged up and down the pitch like a man possessed, defending, attacking, shouting, smiling. Shankly, watching from the touchline, laughed and shouted, "He's like a crazy horse." And from that day, the nickname stuck. Emlyn's energy was endless. He wasn't the most elegant footballer, but he made up for it with passion. He could play anywhere, left back, centre half, even midfield, and always gave everything. He soon became one of the most respected and loved figures in the dressing room. His enthusiasm was contagious, but leadership came naturally to him too. He was loud, fearless, and willing to do the dirty work. Teammates said he'd tackle a brick wall if it meant winning the ball. Liverpool fans adored his heart-on-sleeve attitude. He became the emotional engine of the team, the glory years, triumph and tension. By the early 1970s, Hughes had become Liverpool's captain. Under Bill Shankly and later Bob Paisley, he led the club into its golden era. With Hughes at the helm, Liverpool won 4 First Division titles, 2 European Cups, 2 UEFA Cups and an FA Cup. He lifted trophy after trophy, grinning ear to ear, red scarf around his neck, arms raised to the sky. He wasn't just a captain, he was the spirit of Liverpool made flesh. And in 1977, his performances earned him the Football Writers' Player of the Year award, cementing his place among the greats. But behind the smiles, the Liverpool dressing room wasn't always peaceful. One of Hughes' biggest challenges wasn't on the field, it was inside his own team. His relationship with fellow defender Tommy Smith was one of football's most explosive rivalries. Smith was old school, tough, silent and respected. Hughes, in contrast, was loud, confident and occasionally arrogant. The two clashed like fire and ice. Smith despised Hughes' constant shouting and cheerful attitude. Once he told a journalist, "I'd break his legs if I could." Their feud became infamous, full of heated arguments and near physical fights in training. Yet, when match day came, both men gave everything for the same badge. They might have hated each other off the pitch, but together they formed one of the toughest defences in English football. It was a strange kind of respect. Two warriors who fought each other but would die for Liverpool. The dark side, fame, pressure and recklessness. As Hughes' fame grew, so did his wild side. Off the pitch, he was known for his charisma and humour. He was the life of every party, a natural entertainer who could make anyone laugh. But that that energy came with a cost. The same restlessness that made him unstoppable on the field made him reckless in life. The long nights after victories turned into celebrations that sometimes went too far. Hughes began drinking heavily, known among teammates as someone who could never sit still. Always talking, always laughing, always drinking. His nickname Crazy Horse started to mean more than just football. Then came the moment that shook his image. The drunk driving incident. It wasn't just a minor slip-up. For someone who had captained both Liverpool and England, it was a scandal that hit hard. Fans were stunned. Newspapers splashed his name across headlines. He was fined and publicly shamed, and although he tried to laugh it off, the incident followed him for years. It was a reminder that even the strongest players can lose control. For Hughes, it was a turning point, a moment when the chaos off the pitch nearly overshadowed his greatness on it the final years. A legend's fading light. Despite his troubles, Hughes never stopped fighting. He left Liverpool in 1979 after 12 glorious years, having made over 650 appearances for the club. He moved to Wolverhampton Wanderers, Wolves, where many thought his best days were behind him. But once again, he proved them wrong. In 1980, he captained Wolves to a League Cup victory, showing flashes of the same fearless spirit that had made him a legend. Later, he had spells with Rotherham, United and Hull City before retiring from professional football. But retirement didn't dull his personality. He became a regular on British television, especially on the quiz show A Question of Sport, where his wit, charm and laughter made him a national favourite. People saw the real Emlyn again, not the reckless driver, not the rival, but the cheerful, unstoppable man who loved life. The end, a farewell to Crazy Horse. In 2003, tragedy struck. Hughes was diagnosed with a brain tumour. For a man who had always seemed indestructible, the news was devastating. Even as his health declined, his spirit remained. He joked with visitors, smiled for fans, and showed the same courage that had defined his career. On November 9th, 2004, Emlyn Hughes passed away at just 57 years old. The football world mourned deeply. Flags at Anfield flew at half-mast. Former teammates cried on live television. Even Tommy Smith, his old rival, called him a true leader, a proper Liverpool man. Hughes' funeral was filled with red scarves, songs and stories. He had lived fast, made mistakes, but left behind a legacy few could ever match. His name was carved into Liverpool's history forever, not for being perfect, but for being real. Legacy. The fire never died. Emlyn Hughes wasn't a saint. He was loud, reckless, and sometimes out of control, but he was also brave, passionate, and fiercely loyal. He made people believe. He made fans scream with joy. He made football feel alive. He was proof that legends aren't defined by perfection. They're defined by heart. When you see Liverpool lift a trophy today, somewhere in that roar, you can still hear the spirit of the Crazy Horse, charging forward, never slowing down, never giving up. If you enjoyed this story, make sure to like, subscribe and comment below. Tell us which footballer, athlete or legend you'd like to see next. Your suggestion might become our next story. Until then, remember, heroes aren't flawless. They're human, they're fearless, and sometimes they're a little crazy too.
Reluctant leader has been persuaded that this is his position on his last day here.
His movement was brilliant. His pace, he was really sharp, and he could finish anyway, right or left foot, even in the air.
I knew where he was going to put the ball, and I think that gave us an advantage over the midfield and the defence as well. And obviously, because I had a bit of pace, then I think suddenly I found myself, 3 or 4 yards with one-on-one with the keeper.
He educated himself really, really well.
Bob Paisley was the quiet genius of Liverpool, a man whose brilliance was often whispered rather than shouted. Unlike the flamboyant stars who commanded headlines, Paisley worked in the shadows, letting his results speak for him. From the outside, it seemed effortless. Trophies piled up, records shattered, and Liverpool became a force to be reckoned with across Europe. Yet behind the celebrations and the gold medals, there was a story of patience, struggle, and an unrelenting desire to perfect the craft. He didn't need the spotlight. He needed the team to shine, and in that quiet dedication lay the heart of his genius. Born in the industrial heart of County Durham, England, Paisley's early life was far from glamorous. Football was both an escape and a calling, a way to rise above modest beginnings. He played with intelligence and precision, understanding the game in a way few could even articulate. His playing career was solid but unremarkable compared to the heights he would later reach as a manager. Those early years shaped him, instilling a humility and work ethic that would define his approach to leadership. Every challenge he faced as a young player only fueled his ambition to excel in ways that would later change Liverpool forever. Paisley's transition from player to coach revealed the mind behind the man. He wasn't flashy, he didn't rely on charisma. Yet his insights into tactics, player psychology, and team dynamics were unmatched. Liverpool's corridors became his classroom, the training ground his laboratory. While others chased fame, Paisley studied football, dissected strategies, and quietly built a foundation for the most dominant era in the club's history. His brilliance wasn't announced with fanfare. It emerged in preparation, observation, and a meticulous attention to detail that few noticed until it transformed matches. Despite the calm exterior, Paisley's journey was not without internal battles. The pressure of following Bill Shankly, the man who had become a legend in Liverpool, weighed heavily on him. There were doubts, sleepless nights, and moments when the magnitude of expectation felt overwhelming. How do you step out of the shadow of a legend without losing yourself? Paisley answered that question not with speeches, but with work. Every training session, every tactical adjustment, every decision in the dressing room was carefully measured, guided by a quiet confidence that belied the storm of responsibility he carried. Even as trophies began to arrive, the weight of expectation never fully lifted. Each season brought new challenges, fierce competitors, and the scrutiny of fans and media alike. Paisley bore it all with the same understated grace that defined him throughout life. He understood that football is as much about resilience as it is about skill. Behind every European Cup, league title, or Charity Shield victory, there was relentless preparation, calculated risk, and a man who refused to let pressure dictate his vision. His genius was not in flamboyance, it was in mastery over every aspect of the game, a quiet power that demanded respect. What made Paisley remarkable was his ability to remain unseen while orchestrating greatness. Players flourished under him, teams transformed, and Liverpool's legacy was rewritten year after year. He cultivated loyalty, instilled discipline, and inspired belief without ever raising his voice unnecessarily. The world saw the trophies, but only those close to him understood the battles waged in silence, the injuries he navigated, the doubts he quelled, and the personal sacrifices made to keep the team at its peak. That invisible struggle behind visible triumphs became the hallmark of Paisley's career, a reminder that true genius often operates in quiet solitude rather than public spectacle. And so, as Liverpool fans cheered and celebrated, Paisley remained in the background, a calm force amid chaos, a man whose mind worked tirelessly while the world admired the results. He was the architect of success, the quiet strategist, and the emotional heart of a football dynasty that would echo for generations. His story was not just about victories or silverware, it was about perseverance, humility, and a profound understanding of football that only the rarest of minds possess. Bob Paisley was more than a manager. He was a silent legend, a quiet genius whose struggles and triumphs would forever shape the soul of Liverpool Football Club. Even in moments of triumph, Paisley never let success define him. Each trophy was a milestone, not a destination, and he approached every season with the same meticulous focus that had guided him from the very beginning. While others celebrated the glory, he analyzed the details, the formation, the movement, the mental state of his players. That quiet obsession with perfection is what separated him from his peers. His genius wasn't flashy or obvious. It was in the subtle adjustments, the unseen guidance, and the unwavering belief that greatness is built in the shadows as much as on the stage. Yet behind that calm exterior was a deeply human man, one who understood sacrifice and struggle like few could. The pressures of football, the weight of expectation, and the constant need to prove himself were never trivial to him. Every training session, every tactical decision, every moment in the locker room carried the imprint of a man who had lived through doubts and uncertainty. Paisley's brilliance was inseparable from the challenges he faced, the quiet battles that shaped his character, honed his mind, and allowed him to create a Liverpool dynasty that would stand the test of time. In him, genius and humility existed side by side, forming the foundation of a legend that would never be forgotten. Bob Paisley was born in the industrial town of Hetton-le-Hole in County Durham, a place where football was a way of life and dreams often collided with harsh realities. From a young age he understood discipline, hard work, and the quiet determination required to succeed. Life wasn't easy, his family faced economic hardships, and the world around him demanded resilience. Football became his sanctuary, a place where skill and intelligence could carry him beyond the limits of his surroundings. Even as a boy, he observed the game with precision, analyzing movement, positioning, and tactics with the curiosity of a mind destined for greatness. Despite his love for the sport, Paisley faced challenges that tested his resolve. He wasn't the fastest, the strongest, or the most physically imposing player, but he made up for it with intelligence, anticipation, and unerring work ethic. Every setback became a lesson, every disappointment a motivation. The early struggles taught him humility, patience, and an understanding of effort that would later define his managerial approach. These formative years shaped not just a player, but a thinker, a man who would approach football as both a science and an art. Paisley's playing career was solid but unremarkable, a path that taught him the importance of perseverance. He joined Liverpool as a defender in the 1930s, a time when the club was still finding its identity. He was reliable, disciplined, and technically astute, earning respect for his intelligence on the field. Yet injuries and circumstance limited the heights he could reach as a player. He wasn't destined to become a household name through his playing exploits. But every challenge he faced on the pitch added depth to his understanding of the game. Setbacks on the field never diminished his passion. Instead, they sharpened his mind. The limitations he encountered forced him to think more deeply about tactics, positioning, and the nuances that separate a good player from a great one. He observed managers closely, learning from their decisions and mistakes. Paisley's playing years, though modest in fame, were crucial classrooms, providing him with the foundation to step into a coaching role with unmatched insight. The humility gained from setbacks would later become the bedrock of his legendary leadership. When Paisley retired from playing, he didn't leave football behind. He stepped into it in a new capacity, embracing coaching with quiet determination. He joined Liverpool's coaching staff, working under Bill Shankly, a man whose charisma and vision would guide him while also casting a long shadow. Paisley's approach was meticulous. He studied every aspect of the game, from player psychology to tactical innovation. Unlike flashy coaches, he preferred observation and preparation, believing that success was crafted in the unseen hours before match day rather than in public applause. The transition wasn't without its own challenges. He had to earn the trust of players who knew him as a teammate, proving that he could lead without asserting dominance through personality alone. His calm, analytical nature became his strength, allowing him to assess situations objectively and advise Shankly in ways that subtly shaped Liverpool's approach. Those early coaching years were a masterclass in patience and learning, as Paisley quietly honed the skills that would later define one of the most successful managerial careers in football history. In 1974, following Shankly's retirement, Bob Paisley was handed the reins of Liverpool, and with it came immense pressure. Expectations were sky-high, and the shadow of Shankly loomed large over the club. Fans, journalists, and even players questioned whether a quiet, reserved figure like Paisley could maintain the standard set by a legend. The doubts were loud, but Paisley's resolve was louder. He understood that leadership was not about flamboyance. It was about preparation, insight, and the ability to make the right decisions, often away from public view. Paisley faced early skepticism with grace, letting his work and results gradually silence critics. He didn't rush to prove himself. Instead, he carefully assessed the squad, identifying strengths, weaknesses, and opportunities. His measured approach demonstrated a deep understanding of human nature and football alike. The world doubted him, but Paisley trusted the methodical process that had been instilled in him since childhood. Patience, intelligence, and quiet confidence would ultimately define his era. Paisley's genius became undeniable as Liverpool began to dominate English and European football. He won 6 league titles, 3 European Cups, and multiple domestic trophies, cementing the club's place at the pinnacle of world football. His teams were known for discipline, intelligence, and fluidity, reflecting his belief that every player should understand the game as deeply as he did. Paisley's achievements were not the product of chance. They were carefully orchestrated, a blend of tactical brilliance and man-management mastery that few could replicate. What set Paisley apart was the way he achieved greatness without seeking personal attention. The headlines often focused on players or Shankly's legacy, but Paisley let the trophies speak for him. He created a dynasty quietly, building a Liverpool team that could sustain success long after his departure. His era became a blueprint for excellence, a reminder that leadership grounded in preparation, observation, and respect for players can transform a club into a global powerhouse. Even at the height of his success, Paisley faced personal and professional challenges that rarely made headlines. The pressures of maintaining dominance, handling egos, and managing injuries were constant. He sacrificed personal recognition, family time, and comfort to ensure the team's focus and cohesion. Success for Paisley was never about glory. It was about responsibility, about ensuring that Liverpool remained at the top through his diligence and careful stewardship. Behind the trophies and celebrations were countless unseen battles, late nights analyzing opponents, subtle interventions with players, and the emotional toll of guiding a football empire. Paisley bore it all with humility and grace, never seeking accolades, never craving the spotlight. His quiet sacrifices were the true measure of his greatness, demonstrating that genius often resides not in flamboyance but in consistency, integrity, and an unwavering commitment to excellence. Bob Paisley's legacy is nothing short of extraordinary. He showed the world that true genius doesn't always shout, it works quietly, strategically, and relentlessly behind the scenes. Under his guidance, Liverpool didn't just win matches, they created an era of dominance that still echoes through football history. Every trophy, every celebrated victory, was a reflection of his intelligence, patience, and unwavering belief in his team. Paisley proved that leadership is about vision, preparation, and inspiring those around you to reach heights they never imagined. Yet beyond the silverware, Paisley's story is deeply human. He faced doubt, pressure, and immense responsibility, but he remained humble and focused, always putting the team above himself. He nurtured talent, managed egos with grace, and made quiet sacrifices that few ever noticed. His life reminds us that greatness isn't about fame or applause, it's about consistency, integrity, and the impact we leave on others. Bob Paisley wasn't just a manager. He was a mentor, a strategist, and a silent force that shaped football history forever. If you enjoyed this journey into the life of Bob Paisley, don't forget to hit that subscribe button, like the video, and drop a comment below. Share your favorite Paisley moment, or let us know which legendary football figure we should cover next. His story is a testament to passion, dedication, and the quiet brilliance that builds champions. Join us as we continue exploring the legends who shaped the beautiful game. You won't want to miss what's coming next.
I used to run for 90 minutes straight, never felt tired. Now some days, I can barely walk from one room to the next. When the doctor said the words, Lewy body dementia, I didn't really understand them at first. All I knew was that something inside me was changing. Terry McDermott. He was one of Liverpool's greats, a midfielder with energy that never ran out, a man who lived for the game, who gave everything for the red shirt. But in 2021, life delivered him a challenge. No training, no tactics, no trophies could prepare him for. Terry McDermott, three-time European Cup winner, Footballer of the Year, one of the heroes of Liverpool's golden era, revealed to the world that he had been diagnosed with Lewy body dementia, a cruel and progressive neurological disease that slowly steals memories, movement, and the sense of self. In his own words, he said he was not frightened, just frustrated, because for a man who had always fought every battle head-on from his early days at Newcastle to his glory years under Bob Paisley, this was one opponent he couldn't outpace. But the story of Terry McDermott isn't one of defeat. It's about resilience. It's about remembering what football and life truly meant to him. The cheers, the laughter, the dressing room jokes, and the unforgettable goals they still live on in his memories, and in the memories of millions who watched him light up Anfield. Today, as he faces this battle, he stands not just as a football legend, but as a symbol of courage, of speaking openly about illness, of showing that even when the mind begins to fade, the heart never forgets. Because this is not the story of what he lost. It's the story of what he gave to the game, to his fans, and to every person who refuses to give up, no matter how hard life hits. Before the world knew him as one of Liverpool's finest midfielders, Terry McDermott was just a kid from Liverpool's East Side, a boy who chased footballs on the streets with dreams far bigger than the city skyline. He began his professional journey at Bury back in 1969, a young lad full of grit, heart, and raw determination. He didn't have the flash or the fame, not yet, but what he did have was hunger, the kind of hunger that turns good players into legends. In 1973, fate came calling. Newcastle United, the club where he truly started making his name. Terry became known for his endless running, sharp mind, and ability to turn defence into attack in the blink of an eye. He played with passion, old-school football, no excuses, no shortcuts, and that's what caught the attention of Bob Paisley, Liverpool's mastermind. In November 1974, McDermott signed for Liverpool. At first, it wasn't easy, breaking into a team that already had stars like Keegan, Highway, and Tuchak, was no small task, but Terry was never the type to back down. He worked harder, trained longer, waited patiently, and when his moment came, he made sure no one would ever forget his name. By the late 70s, Terry McDermott had become a key part of one of the greatest football dynasties in history. He scored stunning goals, including that unforgettable strike against Tottenham in 1978, one of the most beautifully crafted goals ever seen at Anfield. He wasn't just scoring, he was orchestrating, leading and inspiring. Liverpool dominated English and European football, and Terry was right there in the heart of it, winning 3 European Cups, 5 league titles, and the Football Writers' Player of the Year award in 1980. Those were his golden years, the roar of Anfield, the weight of the red shirt, and the pride of being part of football's greatest family. But even legends grow older. When his time at Liverpool ended in 1982, he returned to Newcastle United, closing the circle where it all began. And though the boots would one day be hung up, his love for the game never faded. Decades later, in 2021, Terry faced a new challenge, one that no crowd could cheer him through and no training could prepare him for. He revealed his diagnosis of Lewy body dementia, a cruel condition that affects memory, movement, and thought. For a man who built his life around control of the ball, of the game, of his destiny, it was devastating to slowly lose that control to his own mind. Yet, in true McDermott fashion, he faced it with courage. He laughed, he spoke openly about it, and he promised to keep fighting. Even as his memory faded, the memories he gave to millions remained crystal clear. For every fan who stood on the Kop and cheered his name, for every child who grew up dreaming of scoring a goal like McDermott, his story lives on. Because greatness isn't measured by the number of medals you've won, it's measured by the hearts you've touched. And Terry McDermott touched thousands. After his diagnosis, the football world united behind him. Messages came flooding in from fans, former teammates, even rivals, each one filled with love and respect. Kenny Dalglish called him one of the funniest, warmest men you could ever meet. Others spoke of his humility, how he'd never turned down an autograph, never ignored a fan, never stopped smiling even when life gave him every reason to stop. He became more than just a football legend. He became a voice for those quietly battling the same illness. Terry showed that dementia doesn't define a person. It's just another opponent to face, with bravery and humour. Just like he faced defenders in his playing days, he often joked about forgetting things, turning pain into laughter, because that's what he always did. He fought darkness with light, and that light continues to shine. Clubs across the country paid tribute to him. At Anfield, the fans chanted his name once again. Not for a goal this time, but for the man behind them all. A man who gave everything for the badge and kept giving long after his playing days were done. The image of McDermott celebrating a goal, arms raised high, eyes closed in joy. It's frozen in time now, an eternal memory. That's how fans choose to remember him, not defined by his illness, but by his spirit, his relentless fighting heart. And even in the face of dementia, that heart remains. He still smiles when he meets old teammates. He still jokes when he forgets things. And when he talks about Liverpool, his eyes still light up because that love never left him. For Terry McDermott, football was never just a game. It was his language, his home, his heartbeat. And even as the years pass and memories blur, that passion, that fire stays alive inside him and in all those who remember what he stood for. Heroes don't choose their battles. Sometimes life chooses for them, but it's how they fight that defines them. And Terry McDermott, the midfielder who ran endlessly, the man who laughed through pain, the legend who gave everything, continues to fight with the same courage he showed on the pitch. Because even when memory fades, legacy doesn't. Terry McDermott will forever be remembered, not just as a player, but as a man man who showed the world what true strength really looks like. Terry McDermott's story isn't just about football. It's about something bigger, a reminder that even the strongest minds can face battles we don't see. In recent years, more and more former players have spoken about their struggles with dementia men who once ruled the pitch, now fighting invisible wars inside their own minds. Researchers believe that years of heading heavy footballs, the constant impact, and the relentless physical battles may have contributed to these conditions. It's a heartbreaking reality, but also an important one, because awareness brings understanding, and understanding brings change. Terry McDermott, by speaking openly about his own illness, helped shine a light on that truth. He didn't hide behind silence. He stood tall, just like he always did, and reminded the world that football's heroes are still human. Even now, he continues to inspire, because the same grit that made him chase every ball, the same courage that carried him through finals and trophies, now drives him through the toughest game of all, the fight against dementia. He faces it the way he faced every challenge on the field, head up, heart strong, never backing down. And maybe that's the message he leaves behind, that life, just like football, isn't about how many times you fall. It's about how many times you stand back up and keep playing. To the fans, he's a legend. To his teammates, he's family. But to all of us, he's proof that even when the body weakens and the memory fades, the spirit of a true fighter never dies. This was the story of Terry McDermott, a man who fought every match like it was his last, and who now fights dementia with the same courage, heart and passion that once lit up Anfield. If you were inspired by this story, make sure to like this video and subscribe to the channel for more untold stories of football's greatest legends. And if there's another athlete or footballer whose story you'd like to see next, drop their name in the comments below, because every story deserves to be told, and some legends never truly fade.
When you do that with footballers, like he said about Leeds, and when you do things like that about a man like
Keegan, the name itself, echoes through English football history like a chant that never fades. He wasn't just a player, he was a symbol of passion, energy, and the beautiful chaos that defines the game. From the pitches of Scunthorpe to the grand stage of Liverpool and the roar of Wembley, Keegan became a hero of the people. His determination, his heart-on-sleeve attitude, and his relentless drive made him one of the most loved figures in football. Fans adored his charisma. Rivals respected his work ethic, and when he stepped away from the pitch, many believed his story had already been written, one of triumph, emotion, and legacy. But as the years went by, Kevin Keegan took on a new role, one that would test him in ways no match ever could, that of a football pundit. On television screens, in interviews, and across media platforms, he became a voice of reason, honesty, and insight. His opinions carried weight because they came from experience, from someone who had lived and breathed every moment of the game. People trusted Keegan to tell it like it is, and he did. Sometimes too much, because while football may be built on passion, punditry is built on perception. Every word, every sentence, every opinion gets dissected, debated, and twisted. And Kevin Keegan, the man who always wore his heart on his sleeve, soon found himself standing in a storm of words, a storm he never intended to create. His commentary style, emotional and unfiltered, began to spark conversations far beyond the studio fans loved his authenticity. But critics started calling him outdated, out of touch, even controversial. Still, Keegan refused to change. Say it as you see it, that was always his way. But in today's football media landscape, where one wrong phrase can set social media ablaze, that honesty came at a cost. Recently, a new wave of controversy hit a single remark, said with the same confidence and sincerity he's always had, exploded into headlines and debates across the football world. world. Suddenly, Kevin Keegan wasn't being talked about for his achievements, but for his opinions. The very passion that made him beloved was now painting him as divisive. Fans who grew up idolising him felt conflicted. Some defended him fiercely, while others distanced themselves, unsure how to interpret his words. TV networks hesitated, pundits debated, and journalists pounced. What was once a voice of warmth becoming a subject of scrutiny. The laughter, the energy, the charm, all of it now overshadowed by a sentence, a thought, a belief that many believe crossed a line. But here's the thing, Kevin Keegan has never been one to play safe. From the days of fighting for his place at Liverpool to his emotional outbursts as Newcastle manager, he's always been raw and real. That's what made him different. That's what made him human. So when controversy came knocking, he faced it the only way he knew how, by standing firm, unapologetic, and true to himself. He may have stirred the pot, but perhaps, deep down, that's exactly what the game needs. Voices that don't hide behind the corporate polish. Voices that remind us football is not just a business, but a game of emotion. Still, questions remain. Has Kevin Keegan gone too far this time? Has his truth-telling turned against him in a world that demands perfection from imperfection? Or is this just another misunderstood moment from a man who's always spoken from the heart? One thing's certain, Kevin Keegan's punditry career has entered its most controversial chapter yet. What happens next may redefine how the world remembers him. Not just as a legend on the pitch, but as a man unafraid to stand alone in a world where every word can make or break a legacy. Just as a legend on the pitch, but as a man unafraid to stand alone in a world where every word can make or break a legacy. That's exactly what Kevin Keegan has always been. His football journey was never about playing it safe. From the very beginning, he fought for every inch. Born in Doncaster, South Yorkshire in 1951, Keegan wasn't a prodigy, blessed with natural elegance. He was a worker, a fighter, a man who made up for what he lacked in flair with endless passion and determination. He wasn't afraid to challenge trends, question tactics, or call out what he saw as performative commentary. Still, he remained respected until late 2023, when one comment during a speaking engagement set off a storm that would dominate headlines for weeks. In late 2023, Kevin Keegan said something that many interpreted as outdated and controversial. He stated that he had a problem with female pundits discussing the England men's team, explaining that he didn't believe they had the same experience as men. Within hours, the remarks spread like wildfire across social media and news outlets. Some saw it as a reflection of old-fashioned thinking. Others saw it as an honest, if clumsy, expression of traditional football views. For Keegan, it became the most defining controversy of his post-football career, one that threatened to overshadow decades of contribution to the sport he loved. The backlash was immediate. Fans, pundits, and organisations criticised his statement, calling it dismissive and tone-deaf in an era striving for equality and inclusivity. Yet, not everyone turned against him. Two respected figures, TalkSport host Alan Brazil and former England international Chris Waddle, publicly defended Keegan, saying his comments were misunderstood and taken out of context. They argued that Keegan didn't intend to discredit women's knowledge of football, but was instead highlighting a generational difference in perspective. Still, the damage was done. His reputation as the emotional, outspoken voice of football was once again under fire. And just like that, Kevin Keegan, the same man who once captivated millions with his footballing brilliance and heartfelt passion, found himself in the eye of yet another storm. Only this time, it wasn't about goals or trophies, but about words and opinions in a world far less forgiving than the football pitches he once ruled. Whether one agrees with him or not, one truth remains. Kevin Keegan has always been a man of emotion, honesty, and conviction, and even now, decades after his playing days, those very traits continue to define him, for better or for worse. Kevin Keegan's story isn't just one of goals, trophies, or controversies. It's the story of a man who lived football with every beat of his heart. Through every triumph and every storm, one thing has never changed: his passion for the game. Yes, he's had moments that sparked debate. Yes, he's said things that divided opinion. But beneath all the headlines, there's still the same man who fought his way from Scunthorpe to the very top of world football. The man who inspired a generation to believe that hard work, courage and heart could take you anywhere. His honesty, though sometimes misunderstood, has always come from love for the sport, for the fans, and for the truth as he sees it. In a world where many speak safely, Kevin Keegan speaks sincerely, and that, perhaps, is why he still matters. From the electric roar of Anfield to the emotional rollercoaster of St James's Park, from Ballon d'Or triumphs to punditry firestorms, Keegan's legacy has never been ordinary. It's been real, imperfect, passionate, human. Even in controversy, there's something undeniably authentic about him, a reminder that football isn't played by flawless people, but by those brave enough to care deeply. His words may have caused friction, but they also prove that his fire still burns bright, even decades after hanging up his boots. Kevin Keegan will forever be remembered as more than a footballer. He's an emotion, a heartbeat of English football history, and while debates about his opinions may fade with time, the memories of his dazzling runs, his unstoppable drive, and his unfiltered honesty will always remain. Because when all is said and done, legends aren't defined by perfection, they're defined by passion, and few have ever embodied that better than Kevin Keegan. If you enjoyed this story of football's most emotional icon, don't forget to like, subscribe, and leave a comment down below. Tell us what you think about Kevin Keegan. Was he misunderstood or simply too honest for today's game? And if you'd like to see us cover another football legend, feel free to drop your suggestions in the comments, because every legend has a story and we're here to tell them all.